Part 44. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 431. Shan Xiangxin, Wang Bodang, and Chen Yaojin, who had just stood up in the distance, originally saw that Qin Shibao was about to be killed by the monster boy, and they all tried their best to rush over to rescue him. However, as soon as they reached the halfway point, they were surprised to find that the monster boy not only stopped the attack forcibly, but also dismounted, threw his hammers on the ground, kowtowed to Qin Kayang, and kept shouting "Benefactor." What made them even more incredible was that when the monster boy was kowtowing to Qin Kayang, he threw the two golden hammers in his hands on the ground, and two big holes were immediately made on the ground. And with the splash of dust and a loud noise, they all felt as if the ground beneath their feet shook. When Shan Xiangxin and others saw this, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Although they hadn't measured it, judging by the sound of the hammer falling to the ground, a hammer weighed at least 400 kilograms. They may not be able to lift this 400-pound sledgehammer with one hand, but this boy, who looks to be only about 13 years old, has one in each hand and can still swing it with flying colors. With such strange power, this young man is really a monster. No wonder he killed people so ferociously just now, without any difficulty at all. However, compared to his strange power, everyone was obviously more curious about why this murderous demon showed mercy to Qin Kayang, and kept kowtowing to him and calling him benefactor. So Chen Yaojin, the demon king who had the best relationship with Qin Kayang, came over and asked Uncle Bao, "What's going on? How did you become his benefactor?" However, everyone didn't know the reason, and he was also confused. Shaking his head, he whispered to Chen Yaojin and others, "I don't know what happened. He seems to have recognized the wrong person." However, Qin Kayang did not click immediately. Instead, he asked Li Yuanba, "Child, who are you? Why are you calling me? Where is my benefactor?" Li Yuanba was kowtowing. Hearing Qin Kayang's words, he suddenly raised his head and said, "My benefactor, don't you remember Yuanba? My father said that there were enemies chasing our family outside Luoyang City. Fortunately, an highway passed by and rescued us. Yuanba was less than 1 year old at that time. Oh, by the way, my father a Euro trademark's name is Li Yuan, and he is the Duke of Tang Dynasty." Qin Shibao suddenly realized after hearing the young Mana Euro trademark's words, and instantly knew that this man who called himself Yuanba, the young man, is Li Yuanba, the youngest son of Tang Kuagong Li Yuan. "It's just that I didn't expect that when I was just a baby in someone's arms. Not only had I grown so big now, but I also had such good martial arts skills that I'm afraid no one in the world could beat me." However, Qin Shibao knew Li Yuanba's identity, and Shan Xiangxin on the side also heard Li Yuanba's origin clearly, and instantly thought that his brother was shot to death by Li Yuan's arrow. So Shan Xiang's confidence suddenly surged with murderous intent, his eyes were bloodshot, and with the golden top Ziyang in his hand, he wanted to rush forward and kill Li Yuanba to avenge his eldest brother. Qin Kayang and others naturally knew that there was a brother-killing feud between Shan Xiangxin and Li Yuan, so they were prepared for it. As soon as he was about to break out, he was held down by Qin Kayang and Chen Yaojin. At this time, Li Yuanba spoke again. "My lord, Yuanba came here with my second brother. My second brother also misses you very much. Do you want to go back and sit with Yuanba? Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things to do when studying. Collect and recommend. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace." Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 432. When Qin Shibao heard Li Yuanba's words, he didn't know if he was doing it out of his own good intentions or if he wanted to control himself, so he didn't answer. However, he saw that although Li Yuanba was 12 or 13 years old, he seemed not very smart. He felt that he might be overthinking, so he asked Yuanba, "Emperor Sui Yang is cruel and unkind, why does Tang Kuagong still help him?" Li Yuanba was still waiting for Qin Shibao's answer, but he didn't expect that he would ask himself such a question as soon as he opened his mouth, but his attention was diverted. So he shook his head and thought for a long time before saying, "My benefactor, Yuanba doesn't understand what this help means. But Dad just said that Yuanba and his second brother should come to save the emperor, so we came, and then the second brother also said that our benefactor is kind to us and cannot harm your life, and asked Yuanba to let go of his benefactor if he encounters you. You should leave quickly at this moment." Some soldiers from the anti-king coalition behind Li Yuanba, seeing that his back was turned to him and he had no weapon in his hand, he immediately thought he had an opportunity and quietly attacked him. Qin Shibao saw this and was about to give a warning when a soldier stabbed him with a knife in his hand. However, Li Yuanba seemed to have eyes on the back of his head and dodged to the side. At the same time, he raised his arm to clamp the knife and kicked it. The soldier was kicked away. The soldier's sneak attack failed. Everyone else knew that there was no way to attack again, so they took advantage of Li Yuanba's failure to pick up a weapon and launched a strong attack. However, Li Yuanba was not afraid. Facing the anti-king coalition soldiers who were rushing towards him, he kicked out a sledgehammer on the ground. Qin Kayang and others only heard a loud noise, and then saw a heavy hammer weighing at least 400 kilograms flying rapidly towards the soldiers, and it continued to hit them, and continued to move backwards, knocking down people one after another. After dealing with these sneak attack soldiers, Li Yuan turned around and smiled stupidly at Qin Kayang. Seeing this scene, Shan Xiangxin, who had been angered by hatred and almost went berserk, seemed to have had a bucket of cold water poured on his head. He instantly regained his senses. The child in front of him was not a little sheep left to be slaughtered. While looking gratefully at Qin Shibao and Chen Yejin who were still pulling him, he was thankful that he didn't rush forward just now. This monster could even kick a 300 to 400 kilogram heavy hammer so far away. If he had just rushed up to it, wouldn't he have been killed directly? Although he, Shan Xiangxin, is not afraid of death, especially if he can avenge his elder brother, he would not regret dying, but the problem is that he will definitely die if he fights with this monster boy. Not only was he no match for him, but if he fought with him, he would not be able to take revenge and would risk his own life. To say the least, it was his father Li Yuan who killed his eldest brother. Although there is a saying that father's debt must be paid by son, Li Yuan is still alive, and only by killing Li Yuan can he truly avenge his eldest brother. Therefore, I still want to keep this 8-foot body and wait until I see Li Yuan before fighting him. As Shan Xiangxin thought about this, his body gradually relaxed and was no longer tense. Qin Kayang and Chen Yejin felt his changes and stopped holding on to him. At this time, Li Yuanba spoke again. "My dear friend, do you want to go back with Yuanba to meet Yuanba's father? Dad will be very happy to see you." _ To read the underlined version of the novel, please download Felus Yao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 433. Qin Kayang looked at Li Yuanba and knew that he was indeed out of good intentions, so she did not lie to him, but said, "We still have things to do, so we won't go back with you. But if I have the opportunity to pass by Taiyuan in the future, I will definitely visit the Li family in person." After receiving Qin Shibao's promise, Li Yuanba jumped up and down with joy, clapped his hands and said, "Great, benefactor, you must keep your word. You can't lie to Yuanba." Then Li Yuanba pointed at Chen Yejin, Shan Xiangxin, and others and said, "In this case, Yuanba will not tell my benefactor. Benefactor, you are the benefactor of our family, Yuanba cannot harm you. And you are my benefactor, a Euro trademark S friends, and Yuanba doesn't a Euro trademark T want to fight with you, so you follow your benefactor and leave quickly." After Li Yuanba finished speaking, He pointed to everyone except the heroes of Weigong and said very casually, "Dad and second brother asked Yuanba to protect the emperor. I want to listen to second brother and kill all these people after." Li Yuanba finished speaking. He waved his hand towards Qin Shibao, holding up a war hammer beside him, and threw it at him just now. The war hammer walked away. Obviously, although there are still more than 1 million people in the anti-king coalition, Li Yuanba doesn't care at all, as if what he has to face is not more than 1 million people, but more than 100 people. Qin Shibao looked at Li Yuanba, who turned to leave, pondered for a moment, and said to Shan Xiangzin, Chen Yaojin, and others, "With Li Yuanba here, we can't win. Let's go back." Shan Xiangzin and others also knew Qin Shibao's facts, so they also, without arguing, he returned to the camp with him and persuaded Li Mi to withdraw his troops and return to Weigong. Li Mi was frightened when he saw Li Yuanba's performance from a distance. The other rebel kings were killed by Li Yuanba and lost their generals. In addition to losing some small soldiers, his Wei dynasty also had one general casualty. Naturally, he accepted the situation and led the army. Retreat. Facing the monster like Li Yuanba, the rebel kings from all walks of life had long been afraid. At first, it was just because everyone was resisting and no one escaped, so they could still share the same hatred. However, when it comes to escaping, as long as one person takes the lead, countless people will follow. Especially Li Mi, as the initiator of the anti-king coalition, was the first to run away. Naturally, the remaining anti-king forces did not dare to stay and began to organize the army and retreat. However, Li Yuanba let the Weigong army go because Qin Kaiyan, the main general of the Weigong army, was his benefactor and saved the lives of their whole family. But Li Yuanba was not so polite to others. Even though they stopped fighting and prepared to retreat, Li Yuanba still followed them all the way. So a rare phenomenon occurred in ancient and modern times. An army of 2 million people was chased all the way by a boy of 12 or 13 years old, and they lost their armor and were completely defeated. All the rebel kings and their soldiers never imagined that one person's force could actually defeat an army of millions. They never thought that one person's strength could reach this level. In this battle, not counting the previous battles led by the backing King Yanglin and the two-gun veteran Ding Yanping, only counting from the time Li Yuanba appeared and Li Shimin took over Yanglin's troops, the 16th Root anti-king coalition lost a total of nearly 300,000 people. However, the armies of Li Shimin and Li Ziyuning only killed less than 20,000 people. In other words, more than 200,000 people died at the hands of Li Yuanba. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 434. In the battle outside Wei County, the number of enemies killed by Li Yuanba alone was more than 10 times greater than the number of enemies killed by the hundreds of thousands of troops led by Li Shimin and Li Ziyuning. It can be said that without Li Yuanba, Li Shimin and others would have been strangled to death by the anti-king army, and the anti-king army had also invaded Wei County, killed Emperor Sui Yang, and destroyed the Sui dynasty. However, Li Yuanba was not satisfied. After chasing the anti-king coalition forces for a while, he was afraid that he would be lost if he was too far away from his second brother, so he ran back on horseback alone. Li Yuanba's first words after seeing Li Shimin said, "Second brother, why are there so many of them so reluctant to fight? I only fought with Yuanba for a long time before running away." Regarding Li Yuanba's complaints, both Li Shimin and Li Xiuningdu didn't respond. After all, they all knew that Li Yuanba couldn't stop him if he started a fight. When Li Yuanba saw that both of them ignored him, he spoke again, "Second brother, just now Yuanba really saw his benefactor." The benefactor didn't recognize Yuanba at first. He was enjoying the fight, so he came to stop him. Yuanba. Fortunately, Yuanba recognized his benefactor and did not hurt him. Later, Yuanba explained our purpose to him and let him go. The benefactor also took his friends back to Weigong. Now, seeing that Li Yuanba listened to him so much, Li Shimin smiled and said, Yuanba did a good job, and my benefactor will definitely think you are a good boy. Li Yuanba received Li Shimin's praise, and he was so happy that he grinned from ear to ear. Suddenly he shouted, oh, brother, it's bad. Yuanba forgot to chase the general riding the white horse. Li Ziyuning, who had been silent for a long time, couldn't help but rolled his eyes after hearing Li Yuan. Helpless, he said, who told you to forget everything as soon as the fight started? By the time you think about it, they have already disappeared. After hearing Li Ziyuning's words, Li Yuanba said with a straight face, isn't it because we haven't fought for a long time? Once the fight started, I couldn't control it. Li Ziyuning still refused to give in. Even if you fight every day, you still can't control it and can't stop at all. After hearing this, Li Yuanba said even more aggrievedly, it's not because you usually don't let a Euro fight, but after a hard fight, you forgot about it as soon as you were happy. As an elder brother, Li Shimin naturally stepped forward to mediate when his younger brothers and sisters quarreled. He said, okay, you don't have to worry about it. That person. In this world, there is such a person with such martial arts that he can kill the Backer King and the two-gun veteran Ding Yanping in a few moves. Among the people we are familiar with, apart from Yuanba, there is only the cold-faced Luo Hanqiang. It's done. But this person is obviously not Luo Cheng, so there is only such a master in the Shenlong Empire. After hearing this, Li Ziyuning thought of the figure of the white-robed general and couldn't help but said, I thought others said that there were many generals in the Shenlong Empire. Not only is the Dragon Emperor unbeatable, but the generals under his command are also full of talents. I don't Euro trademark know who this person is. Li Shimin nodded and said, looking at this Mana Euro trademark's white robe and white horse, and his silver helmet, silver armor and silver spear, he must be following him. Wu Yunzhao fought Zhao Yun for hundreds of rounds, who had the upper hand even though there was no outcome. That battle shocked everyone in the world. Li Shimin was particularly impressed by this. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 435. After hearing this, Li Ziyuning frowned and asked, then since the Dragon Emperor did not join forces with the 16th Root Anti-King to besiege Wei County, why did he send his general to help the Anti-King coalition secretly kill the patron Wang He? Where is Ding Yanping? Li Shimin shook his head. Obviously he couldn't guess what the Dragon Emperor was thinking. At this time, Li Yuanba asked, second brother, I heard that the Dragon Emperor was so powerful in martial arts that even Yuan Chengdu was killed by him in 4 moves. This means that he must be much more powerful than Yuan Chengdu. I just don't know if he can take over a few moves from Yuanba. When can we start a war with the Dragon Kingdom? Then Yuanba can have a hearty fight with the Dragon Emperor. Although Yuan Chengdu was defeated by Li Yuanba in 3 moves, so in Li Yuanba's heart, Yuan Chengdu is not much better than others. But after all, for such a long time, he has never encountered anyone who is more powerful than Yuan Chengdu. Almost everyone can be beaten to death with just one hammer. However, Li Shimin gave him a break-a basin of cold water. The Dragon Kingdom is in Yangzhou, and Jiangnan is too far away from our Taiyuan, so there won't be a war for a while. Then, Li Shimin ignored Li Yuanba's disappointed expression and took him, Li Ziyuning, and 10 others. Tens of thousands of troops returned to Wei County and handed over all the troops of the patron king to Emperor Sui Yang. Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty was originally very sad about the death of his patron king, but when he learned that Li Yuanba had killed more than 200,000 people by himself, and even killed 2 million enemy troops, he was immediately happy. Dancing. When he thought that since Yuan Chengdu died, he didn't have a capable general around him, but Li Yuanba was more powerful than Yuan Chengdu. With him by his side, Lian Yong might be afraid. So Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty said to Li Yuanba and Li Shimin, I didn't expect that you would produce such a powerful person as Li Yuanba. I will now designate Li Yuanba as the Grand Protector of the Sui dynasty. From now on, he will stay with me to protect my safety. Li Shimin he didn't want Li Yuanba to stay with Emperor Sui Yang, and was about to refuse, but Li Yuanba said first Yuanba doesn't want to be separated from his second brother. Emperor Sui Yang looked confused after hearing this, and Li Shimin took the opportunity to say, Your Majesty, although Yuanba is highly skilled in martial arts, he is not mature mentally. If he is with Your Majesty, he will probably contradict Long Wei. Li Yuanba didn't want to stay with the emperor at first, but when he saw that his second brother also supported his decision, he immediately said happily, Yes, Yuanba doesn't want to be here, he wants to go back to Taiyuan. Emperor Sui Yang couldn't help but feel angry when he saw the two brothers singing in harmony, but he knew that Li Yuanba only had the intelligence of a child, and he was afraid that he would be unhappy. He fell out with himself, so he had to hold back his anger and agreed to Li Shimin's request. Emperor Sui Yang was angry, and Yuan Huaji was also very angry, because the general who protected the country was originally granted to Yuan Chengdu after Emperor Sui Yang promised to pacify the Dragon Kingdom. But now that Yuan Chengdu died fighting for the Sui dynasty, Yang Guang turned around and forgot about Yuan Chengdu, and wanted to give this position to Li Yuanba, who had defeated Yuan Chengdu. How could he endure this? After Li Shimin left with Li Yuanba, Yuan Huaji thought that the world was in chaos now, even the king who supported him was dead, and Li Yuanba was unwilling to stay by his side, so Yang Guang would have no one to rely on. The great Sui dynasty was bound to perish soon, so why did he still guard this fatuous and incompetent emperor? So, Yuan Huaji thought of a vicious plan. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 436. As all the people who could rely on Emperor Sui Yang died, Yuan Huaji immediately had evil thoughts. When he thought of the death of Yuan Chenglong and Yuan Chengdu, Emperor Sui Yang didn't even mention it. You can't control the impulse in your heart. So Yuan Huaji secretly bribed the guards around Emperor Sui Yang and asked them to leave the palace of Emperor Sui Yang that night after Emperor Sui Yang fell asleep. Later, that night, Yuan Huaji came to the palace with his personal guards. After Yang Guang's guards left, he sneaked into the palace. Looking at the sleeping Emperor Yang of Sui, Yuan Huaji's face was full of hatred, as if the person who killed Yuan Chengdu and Yuan Chenglong was not a person from the Dragon Kingdom, but Yang Guang. Then, he covered the mouth of the concubine who was sleeping next to Emperor Yang of Sui dynasty, and then stabbed her neck with a knife. The concubine was killed in her sleep without even moving. Then Yuan Huaji signaled his guards to grab Emperor Sui Yang's limbs and control him, and at the same time he strangled his neck with both hands. Emperor Sui Yang suddenly woke up from his sleep. His neck was strangled so hard that he couldn't breathe, and his limbs were suppressed tightly. He was unable to resist. He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't shout because his neck was strangled. Shout! At this time, Emperor Sui Yang, who was full of horror, finally saw the face of his assassin. He struggled and said, Yuan Iking, what are you doing? Let go. The reason why Yuan Huaji didn't kill Sui like Emperor Yangdi's concubine, she cut him off in his sleep with a knife, just to let him accept his trial while he was awake. So Yuan Huaji still said viciously, Yang is pretending to be an emperor here with me. My 2 sons died because of you, sacrificing their lives for the country. But what about you? After they died, as the king of a country, did you ever have a word of praise for them? The position of the general who protects the country is to be granted the title it was given to my son Yuan Chengdu, but after seeing Li Yuanba's bravery, he actually wanted him to do it. Now that I think about how powerful he is, why didn't you think about it when you hunted down their whole family? Yuan Huaji was also too angry and asked Sui Emperor Yang told everything about his secret pursuit of Li Yuan's family. However, at this time, everyone was a swordsman and I was a fish. Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty had no intention of saying this to him, so he had to beg for mercy. My dear, Mr. Yuan, I was wrong. Yuan Chengdu and Yuan Chenglong died fighting for the Sui dynasty. Tomorrow I will make them protectors of the country. My dear, what do you want? You can choose the civil and military positions in the Manchu dynasty. If you let me go, I will never pursue them again. Yuan Huaji laughed loudly after hearing Emperor Sui Yang's promise. Said, now that you think of naming my son as the protector of the country, what have you been thinking about? Let me tell you, Yuan Hua, don't look down on the positions of civil and military officials in the Manchu dynasty. You are the only one I want to do. I can give it, whether you agree or not. I have made a decision today. After listening to Yuan Huaji's words, Emperor Sui Yang thought that he really wanted to get some official position or items from him, so he hurriedly said, Ai Qing, what do you want? Just say whatever you want, I will satisfy you, please let me go. After Yuan Huaji heard this, the strength in his hand suddenly increased, and he said fiercely, what I want is for you, your majesty, to be the emperor, and to be able to return to the throne. If you have Yang Guang's head on your neck, I will take it away. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 437. After Yuan Hua finished speaking, he pinched Yang Guang harder. Although Yang Guang struggled desperately, after all, his limbs were held down and he could not resist at all. In the end, he twitched a few times. His life was cut short. Yuan Huaji strangled Emperor Sui Yang to death. He was too tired. He sat beside his bed and gasped for air. Then he said to the bodyguard beside him, cut off Yang Guang's head for me. Tomorrow morning, I want to ascend the throne and proclaim myself emperor in front of hundreds of officials. After Yuan Hua finished speaking, he threw the body of Emperor Sui Yang to his guards, and he himself came to Emperor Sui Yang's desk, handed over the jade seal and the ability to dispatch an army. The tiger charm is in the bag. Later, he came to the barracks with the tiger talisman and incorporated all the Sui troops in Wei County, making them completely obey his orders. In the morning of the next day, all the officials of the Sui dynasty went to court as usual, but Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty did not appear after waiting for a long time. When they were talking about it, they saw Yuan Huaji coming from behind wearing a dragon robe and sitting on the dragon chair. Superior. When all the officials saw such a situation, they were all shocked. Some smart people had already realized that Emperor Yang of Sui dynasty never showed up, and Yuan Huaji sat on the dragon throne again. Something must have happened, so he closed his eyes knowingly. Mouth. However, there were two veterans of the Sui dynasty who were quite loyal to the Sui dynasty. When they saw Yuan Huaji dressed like this, they immediately stood up and cursed Yuan Huaji, what do you mean by dressing like this? Why don't you hurry up and get married, get off the dragon chair? How can you, a Xianbei man, sit there? Do you want to rebel? After hearing the old minister's words, Yuan Hua narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, Emperor Yang Guang of the Sui dynasty had already died last night. He died suddenly. From now on, I will be the emperor. The era of the great Sui dynasty has passed. From now on, I will change the name of the country to Dashu, and Jianyuan to Tianshao. From now on, all the officials of your great Sui dynasty will be I am a great official. I will not hold you accountable for the crime of disrespect because you do not know, but if there is a next time, I will never let you off easily. Those two Sui dynasty officials who just accused Yuan, after hearing this, he was immediately furious. One of them said, "Don't be alarmist here. You have hidden His Majesty somewhere. Release him and let us hear what your Majesty has to say." When Yu Wenhua saw this, he knew that they would not reach the Yellow River. Unwilling to give up, he waved his hand and a guard behind him opened a wooden box, took out something and threw it in front of the two people. Everyone looked down and saw that it was the head of Emperor Sui Yang. Many people were caught off guard and fell to the ground in fear. Except for the two veterans who were loyal to the Sui dynasty, everyone else had already guessed that Yu Wenhuaji must have launched a mutiny, so they no longer persisted, and they all knelt down and worshipped. "I see you, your Majesty, long live our Emperor, long live." When Yu Wenhuaji heard that the officials recognized him, he laughed happily. When the two old ministers saw how cowardly these officials were, they were so angry that they cursed, "You weaklings have received the salary of the Sui dynasty for so many years in vain. Come on, where are the guards? Hurry up and give me the Yu Wenhua and this, get rid of the regicide dog thief." They shouted for a long time, but no one responded. At this time, Yu Wenhuaji said, "I gave you the opportunity, but if you don't cherish it, then go and bury your Emperor Sui Yang with him. Come on, let me chop them down." Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collect and recommend. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 438. After Yu Wenhuaji finished speaking, dozens of palace guards immediately rushed in and killed the 2 veterans of the Sui dynasty on the spot. As the 2 veterans who were loyal to the Sui dynasty were killed on the spot by a group of guards who rushed into the palace, with blood flying, all the ministers understood one thing, that is, Yu Wenhuaji not only killed Emperor Sui Yang, and has completely controlled the military power. Most of them are old officials who have been in the officialdom for more than 10 or even decades. They are all as slippery as loaches. Naturally, they all know the principle of protecting themselves wisely. No one wants to resist at this time. So they naturally turned a blind eye to the 2 beheaded veterans, and instead became more obedient to Yu Wenhuaji, saying a lot of good words of loyalty. Although the great Sui dynasty had long been defeated in the expedition against the Dragon Kingdom, and then the 17th Root Army rebelled against the king, it was already in name only, but at least Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty was alive, the backing King Yang Lin of the Great Sui dynasty was still there, and the Great Sui dynasty still had its final dignity. Is still the only orthodoxy in the world. It is precisely because of this that although many frontier officials and princes like Li Yuan were secretly recruiting troops, they still regarded themselves as ministers of the Sui dynasty and did not raise troops to rebel. But with Zhao Yun killing his patron King Yang Lin, and most importantly, Yu Wenhuaji killing Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty, the last banner and fig leaf of the Sui dynasty had been completely torn down. Today's world has officially entered the era of feudal princes competing for hegemony, and the Sui dynasty has been completely destroyed and can only survive in the long river of history. It didn't take long for Yu Wenhua and regicide to stand on their own, and the news of the demise of the Sui dynasty blew across the central plains like a hurricane, and at the same time it shocked all the rebel kings and states. Those who were loyal to the Sui dynasty naturally hated Yu Wenhua and were not allowed to eat his flesh, sleep on his skin, or drink his blood. As for those anti-kings who had already launched an army to rebel, Yu Wenhuaji's behavior was extremely contemptuous. In their eyes, Yu Wenhua and Emperor Sui Yang were the same as before. However, when Emperor Sui Yang was still the king of Jin, or even the prince, at least his literary, Taoist and military strategies could convince many Sui emperors, otherwise he would not have replaced Yang Yang. The position of prince. Therefore, people think that the reason why Yang Guang's temperament changed drastically after he ascended the throne, and he became cruel, unkind, and debauched was mainly because of Yu Wenhuaji's instigation. Therefore, people in the world hate Yu Wenhuaji even more than they hate Yang Guang. In addition, as the most trusted minister around Emperor Yang of Sui dynasty, Yu Wenhuaji actually committed such a treasonous act as regicide and self-reliance, which was even more despised by people. If he really had second thoughts about Emperor Sui Yang, then he left Emperor Sui Yang and started his own rebellion. If he could really kill Yang Guang, then all the rebel kings and heroes in the world would still respect him as a man. However, he carried out the assassination when Emperor Sui Yang had great trust in him, and also recruited Emperor Sui Yang's army for his own use. Such acts of disloyalty and injustice instantly aroused public outrage. Moreover, killing Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty and overthrowing the great Sui dynasty was regarded as a great achievement in the eyes of various rebel kings. Naturally, such things should be done by oneself rather than by a Xianbei person. This is equivalent to the Xianbei aliens wiping out the political power of the Han people and establishing their own rule in the Central Plains. This is a shame for all Han people. If they are really not our race, their hearts must be different. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 439. For a time, Yuan Huaji and De Su had a very bad reputation in the world. In addition, Yuan Huaji was originally from Xianbei. Doing such a thing made the world Han people continue to criticize. Facing the overwhelming condemnation, Yuan Huaji really didn't expect that. He thought that people all over the world were proclaiming themselves kings and emperors under the banner of anti-Sui, and even wanted to kill Yang Guang, but he helped them kill Yang Guang, but he failed. It attracted so much criticism. Many rebel kings even threatened to destroy De Su and kill Yuan Huaji sooner or later. This frightened Yuan Huaji, who sent a large number of scouts to keep an eye on the movements of the various anti-kings, fearing that they would gather another 2 million troops to attack him like before. After all, he did not have a fierce general like Li Yuanba under his command, and his son Yuan Chengdu, who could intimidate everyone, had also died in the battle. Although many officials who were originally from the Sui dynasty chose to surrender due to coercion because Yuan Huaji controlled the military power, they still looked down on the foreigners, so they secretly fled Wei County not long after. Although Yuan Huaji was angry about this, he could not stop it. After all, before the officials escaped, he did not know who would escape and who would truly surrender to him. As for those who escaped, he originally wanted to send troops to chase them back, but because he was afraid that the rebel kings would attack Wei County, he did not dare to send troops abroad to waste troops, so he had to give up. In order to prevent his ministers from escaping, he originally wanted to send someone to monitor everyone day and night, but he was afraid that this would arouse the resentment of the ministers. If the foreign enemies had not come to attack him, and he rebelled on his own, it would be more than worth the gain. Therefore, in desperation, Yuan Huaji had no choice but to ignore the escape. At the same time, he repeatedly emphasized his trust in everyone at the court meeting, and showed his magnanimity by not pursuing those who escaped. However, amid internal and external troubles, there was finally one thing that made Yuan Hua feel at ease. That was that those who were against the king and stayed behind during the Sui dynasty had no intention of sending troops to attack Wei County. Although they all share the same hatred and wish to eliminate Yuan Huaji immediately, after all, they had just lost a lot of troops in the 16th route anti-king siege of Wei County. Even if they didn't lose much, they were unwilling to send out troops for another expedition, because the demise of the Sui dynasty was already a certainty, so the world was in chaos now, and fighting for territory as soon as possible was the most important thing. If I send troops to attack Wei County out of loyalty, for me, apart from gaining some not so important fame, I won't gain much benefit from dominating the world. Not to mention that Yuan Huaji had incorporated the army of the Sui dynasty, with a strength of about 300,000. He may not be able to defeat him. Even if he can defeat him, it is very likely that other forces will take advantage of him and attack him. Lair. Therefore, The conquest of Yuhuaji was still loud with thunder but little rain, and no one launched a substantive attack. At the same time, the news also reached Yangzhou city. Lu Feng listened to the scouts describing the battle situation, with a true expression on his face. It seems that no matter how I intervene, although some details may have changed, the overall historical trend will still not change. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 440. In the original history, Li Yuanba defeated the 18th Root anti-Qing allied forces for the first time at Siming Mountain. Now it has become an unknown hill outside Wei County. Although the time and place have changed, but the end result has not changed. Whether in history or today, Li Yuanba defeated an army of 2 million with 1 man and 2 hammers, and killed more than 200,000 people. The only difference is that fierce generals such as Yuan Chengdu, Xiang Qiahe, Wu Yunzhao and Wu Tiangzi have all been killed by Lu Feng himself first and did not appear on the battlefield. So even though the news reached the Dragon Kingdom, Zhao Yun, Ma Chao, Dian Wei and others were incredulous that Li Yuanba defeated 2 million people by himself. Even Lu Buletin was impressed by it, but Lu Feng had already predicted it and was not surprised at all. In addition to this battle, the ending of Emperor Sui Yang was also very similar to that in history. He also died at the hands of Yu Wenhuaji. It's just that in history, Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty was killed by Yu Wenhuaji in Yangzhou during the fireworks in March during his 3 trips to the south of the Yangtze River. But now, even if Lu Feng occupied Yangzhou, Emperor Yangzhou of the Sui dynasty did not have the chance to go to Yangzhou for the 3rd time. Instead, he fled to Wei County with Yu Wenhuaji after being defeated, but he still did not escape death at the hands of Yu Wenhuaji. Destiny. For this reason, Lu Feng had to lament that there seemed to be an invisible hand controlling the course of history. No matter how I intervene and make reality different from history, the final outcome seems to have been predetermined. All I can change are some details in the process. Lu Feng's emotions were expressed by others. After all, besides himself having known the history for a long time, even Zhao Yun, Guo Xia and others had experienced this for the first time. Everything that happens, in their view, follows the law of the development of things. They simply could not experience Lu Feng's efforts to change history, but in the end they found that history was still slowly moving forward along its original trajectory. And no matter how hard I try to shift the wheel of calendar a little further, I will eventually return to the original track. Perhaps only people who, like Lu Feng, have traveled from the future of an era can have this wonderful feeling. However, the demise of the Sui dynasty was doomed. Even if Sun Yu and Guojiao were not around, Lu Feng could still clearly realize that the next world would definitely start a history of princes attacking each other. Although the current strength of the Dragon Kingdom has not reached its peak, and the large army still remains in the original world. Lu Feng now has only more than 20,000 people, but in addition to personal force, the Dragon Kingdom also has an important advantage. That is all of them, whether they are the Dragon Emperor Lu Feng, the military generals Zhao Yun, Lu Buletin and others, or the councillors Guo Xia, Sun Yu or even all the direct soldiers of the Dragon Kingdom, they all came from the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty and have a special understanding of the troubled times. Very familiar feeling. Most of the forces in this world, except for a few old people such as Li Yuan who experienced the chaotic wars between the northern and southern dynasties before the founding of the Sui dynasty, most of the others have no experience in developing in troubled times. Even Li Yuan was just a minister beside Emperor Wen of Sui dynasty Yang Jian, helping Yang Jian conquer the world instead of taking charge of power himself. But the Dragon Kingdom is different. They came from the troubled times at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao.